Okay.
now. Um, so I don't know if you guys can see my screen. Let me know if you can't see my screen.
You can see it.
Is everybody? What I'd like everybody to do is also log in into the asset optimization if you don't already have it up. If you need a link, just let me know and I can throw you one.
I'm in.
Okay, so this is the opening screen here, and the one portal that's kind of highlighted for us to use is YieldStar. So you can go ahead and click into that. So you come to this reports page, and this is pretty cool. I'm not quite sure what the setup looks like on your page, but for me, I can look at all of our properties that we have on YieldStar, and you can actually compare multiple properties. So you can check multiple boxes when you want to run a report. Um, I think for the purposes of this call, we'll just kind of pick and choose. Maybe we'll just go to you guys. We can start at Greystone and run a report since you're on the call, Lisa. Um, so I selected Greystone, and then we have these several different report options you can take a look at. The first one we're going to look at is the executed lease analysis report. So just go
Mm-hmm.
ahead and click that. You can look at different time periods. We're going to look at a pretty lengthy time period, December 2014 to April 2016. But you can go in and, there are different metrics you can check or uncheck in here. I think everything here looks pretty sharp to me. It's kind of the default set of metrics that are selected here. Um, and there are some other display settings under advanced settings, but I'm just going to look at this changing by quarter, and all this will make more sense once you actually see the report. So I'm going to go ahead and click Run Report. It's going to be an Excel file. Might take a couple minutes to generate. So before this file opens, this report is pretty useful in kind of seeing the trend of numerous different metrics, but two most important I think are revenue per square foot um, and just general rental growth. So I'm going to go ahead and download this report. It's going to go into a folder here, and I go ahead and select the multi-report. So that brings this up. So we're looking only at Greystone Meadows, and you can see here. Well, might as well start from the top. So um, here are all of the metrics that this report's showing, and broken out by time period. So we have December 2014 all the way to April 2016. And what this report is it's being summarized by is it's by quarter, as you can see. Um, so, for example, like new lease executed rent, we're looking at in Q4 of 2014, we had an average new lease executed rent of 1162. So that's a negative 9% drop quarter over quarter. It's kind of how you see it through each metric here. Um, I don't pay that much attention to the new lease executed rent line, and the reason for that is because you have a multitude of different floor plans. In one quarter you could be heavier in one floor plan, and another quarter you could be heavier in another floor plan. As far as the makeup of your new leases goes, and so it seems to me that it's maybe not the best method of comparison. I really, I really kind of skip down to the bottom to rent roll and revenue. So these metrics down here, and to kind of better look at this, I like to freeze my pane so we can kind of keep up at the time period. But so what you can see here is revenue per available square foot. So that is your revenue per your entire rentable square footage in the entire property. The rent roll column here, or sorry, row here, is revenue per occupied square foot. So that's only counting the revenue for any square foot that's actually occupied. I prefer to look at the revenue per available square foot because I think it gives a better picture of what your true, it gives a very detailed picture of what your revenue, your actual revenue is. You simply multiply this $1.52, for example, in Q4 of 14 times your total square footage to get your actual revenue. So revenue per available square foot has changed. So a lot of positive growth here. Even though some quarters here you have negative new lease executed rent, you're still getting positive growth in your revenue because you have a consistently increasing GPR. You have positive renewal growth, and also here occupancy also took a bit of a bump there. So I like looking at this. Gives you a good idea of how you're growing quarter over quarter. If you go back to the setup here, you can change it if you want to only look at under advanced settings. If you want to look at display by year, you can look at that. You can change it by year instead of quarter. So you have all these kind of options at your fingertips as to what period you want to look at, and kind of go from there. Another interesting part of this executed lease analysis report is you can kind of I like looking at the renewal conversions and then the renewal rate changes. And sometimes sometimes it can tell a story. You would think typically when you have a higher renewal conversion, maybe you tend to have less aggressive renewal rate change, but you can also see that's not always the case. For example, here, when you're comparing Q1 of 15 to Q2 of 15, we actually had a higher renewal conversion in Q2 of 15, even though we had a higher renewal rate change of 8.7% compared to the 7.5%. So, sometimes they'll correlate, other times they won't. There could be a variety of reasons behind that, but it kind of gives you an idea. You could be in a market where maybe people are just kind of less sensitive to the pricing changes. Maybe it's just a very high growth market, and you're going to get you might be getting a similar renewal conversion for two varying, pretty significantly varying renewal rate changes. But it's this data, having this at your fingertips, I think, is very helpful, and gives you an extra kind of window into your property's performance over time. So, that pretty much sums up the executed lease analysis report. Does anybody have any questions on it?
No.
Okay. So next one, you can also pull lease compliance in YieldStar, but this is another area you can take a look at it. And I pulled this one. I want to say that this is for Alderwood. So I pulled this one earlier, and here you can see the lease details of all the leases signed between this period of April 24th to May 24th, and you can see, okay, this was the scheduled rent, and this is what the actual rent is, and you can see they're 100% compliant, which is obviously what we're looking for. It gives you a quick snapshot of how compliant you are with YieldStar's recommended, or with, I guess, the scheduled rents in YieldStar. So I look at this on occasion. I typically look at it through YieldStar, which is a little bit easier to access, but you can also look at it here. The lease report, I haven't really used that. I don't really think there's a ton of benefit from really utilizing that report, so I'm going to kind of skip through that for now. So the lease trade-out report is probably my favorite report, as nerdy as that sounds, and it's great because it'll give you an idea of your lease over lease growth, regardless of whether it's someone who renewed or somebody, a new resident that moved in. So it gives a good idea of, like, if someone doesn't renew, well, what kind of growth am I actually getting? And it's kind of reflecting directly in your GPR, the results from this lease trade out. So let's see. Let's look at let's look at Canyon. I'm sure Meg will appreciate that. And Excel's, and maybe like stretch back and even look at a longer time frame than what's being suggested here. Let's look at from January 1st to today. I want to look at all. I'm going to go to advanced settings and look at all rates, and go ahead and run the report. I think this along with the executed lease analysis are probably the two most useful reports in asset optimization. I think it provides a lot of insight as to your property's performance and how you're trending and what you're actually garnering in GPR growth here. Okay, so the report is ready. Okay, so here it is, and I typically like to go in here, and I in order to, it's a pretty wide set of data, left to right, so I just want to be able to view that a little better. So I just go to here, View, and I freeze the panes. So then when you scroll to the right, you can make sure you know what kind of is this a new lease or was it a renewal lease? You can see that pertinent information. You can see the unit type, and the unit. So it's kind of like how I like to view it. So here you see this B207, for example. Current lease is an eight-month term. You can see all the rent information here. The previous resident, so this is somebody who moved in, a new person who moved in. The previous resident was paying $935. So there were 12 vacant days, but the total dollar trade out is $1237 minus $935 is $302. So you're getting a heck of a percentage bump and a heck of a dollar amount bump on this particular resident, which might tell you that maybe the previous resident was just paying historically just well under market, and it's really at the end of the day a big positive in the GPR growth world to turn that unit, even though, yeah, maybe short-term turn cost is going to hit you, but long-term you're really going to be in a really nice position with that GPR growth. And you can kind of go through and you can compare. So here's, obviously our all the new residents who moved in. We're looking at 24.5% trade out growth over the previous residents' leases. So pretty solid growth there. When you look at, you're in general, it's not always the case, but in general, you're going to see more aggressive new lease growth compared to your renewal growth, which generally makes sense. I mean, if we're turning the unit, we're wanting to get a premium out of it. So that's what you're generally going to see. Not always the case, but usually. So here on the renewal side, you see 11.7% is the trade-off percentage, which compares to the new lease growth percentage of 24.5%. I like this report a lot because you will see like this individual, for example, is actually paying a lot less, and they're a new lease. So a new resident is paying a lot less than the previous resident. You might ask yourself, well, why do we want? Why are we giving that up? If it's something under our control, maybe we should have been a little more conservative on their renewal offer. Maybe they wouldn't have left. Well, you can see here the previous resident was only on a 3-month term, and generally with the shorter the term, the higher the premium. And so this individual was paying $16.29 a month for a 3-month term. Well, now this new resident is paying $12.42 a month, but it's for a 12-month term. So obviously, the turn cost is being built into this premium for this shorter lease compared to the new one. And that's, you kind of gives you an explanation as to why we're seeing that. And actually, that kind of goes for all of these. Well, at least for this individual. In H301, they were also on a shorter 8-month term. Now they're on a 12-month term. So it's kind of interesting to view. In this circumstance, on your 2x1s, you're actually getting a better bump out of your renewals than your new leases, and a lot of that has to do with just the terms here that were on the previous lease compared to now. So yeah, just gonna go through each of your floor plans, see what your trade outs are, and like I said, directly reflects in your GPR. So pretty solid growth overall, 9.7% from January 1st to today. So good job, Meg. That is positive for sure. Okay. Trend report. Okay, so our next report is our leasing trend report. Let's look at it for Sean. Sometimes takes a bit. There we go. All right, right. The leasing trend report gives you essentially like a 30-day look back at what your leasing trends have been by floor plan. So it breaks it out, and you look at your how many leases you basically the past 4 weeks, essentially how many new leases you were able to obtain. What's your lease percentage? How does that vary by week, and how does that vary by floor plan? And 28 days average occupancy as well. How you're trending with your new lease offered rents. So, as you can see here, Sean went through a period where he opened up 1418, dipped a bit, 1391 in the 1 bedrooms, and then is now back up a stabilized 1422. And then also how your recent average rents have trended as well. So here you can see it's been positive trend here for Sean. This rate acceptance is how basically demonstrates how frequently we accept the Yield Star recommended rate. you can see on some floor plans, it's been all the time, like the 2-bedroom, 1-bath floor plan. In others, it's kind of varied week by week. 2-bedroom, 2 baths for a variety of reasons. We decided to not accept the YieldStar recommended rent here. It just gives you a little bit more insight on your trends. You can also go back to this advanced settings, and you can take a look different. Let's look at performance details, property summary. Yeah, you can look at different views of the data. Definitely has some useful information, but I would say that the reports again that I look at the most are the executed lease analysis report and the lease trade-out report. And I would recommend that you guys try to pull those reports monthly, so you can get an idea of how you're trending, and kind of look back on maybe where you found success and maybe areas for improvement. And also help explain those trends that you might be seeing. Your regionals are going to be looking at these as well from time to time. So here, this is actually a little more useful, this view. This performance details, the revenue per occupied square foot, occupancy, and then revenue per available square foot, probably the most useful metric in my opinion. Well, that's cool. So you can see the growth, the percentage growth in revenue per available square foot since we went live on YieldStar, which for Totem, I want to say was back in 2014. So since we went live, our revenue, essentially our rental revenue, has increased by 27.7%. Which I would say it could be worse for sure. It definitely could be worse. That's pretty great growth. So, not a ton of reports at this time. There's only a few reports, but they're continuing to add to their offering in asset optimization. So we should anticipate that list growing and getting some more pretty useful reports that'll help us with our decision making and also help kind of evaluate our performance in the past, and kind of learn from our history. So that's the presentation. Do you guys have any questions about any of the reports in particular? Anything you want to maybe take a closer look at?
Not for me right now. I'm going to play around.
Okay.
On the leasing trend report, it only goes back for the previous month?
That's correct.
Okay, thanks.
It only goes back for the previous month on the breakout here, like, here. But then this percentage change over go live is going all the way back to your go live date on YieldStar. Most of you went live in 2014. Some of you went live well, actually I think everybody on this call went live in 2014. So we have a little over 2 years, I think towards the beginning of 2014. So a little over 2 years of history reflected in this go live percentage change over go live date.
I noticed on that one you can use a benchmark date if you're looking for a specific period of time. Like if you don't want to just start from the property go live date?
Yeah, so you can look at, it's a good call out there. Yeah, so if you purely want to look at the past 2 years, let's just look at something. While that loads, something interesting to look at here is the occupancy has actually dropped 1.1% over the period from the go live to now. But clearly our revenue growth has more than made up for that, obviously. But I think it just goes to show, it kind of underlines, I think, the revenue optimization piece that YieldStar offers. Let's see. Yeah, so we're looking 2 years back. Actually, our occupancy went up a bit. Yeah, literally over 2 years, 2-year period, 21.2% growth is very good, and outpacing the market by a good clip. I don't recall the specific percentage, but I want to say in suburban Seattle market, looking at maybe like 7 to 8% growth over that same, per year of that same period. So that would be more like 14-ish, maybe 15-ish%. So we're outpacing that by a good clip here at Totem. Any other questions, comments?
Nada.
All right. So yeah, put this on your list to just touch about once a month. Just kind of look at your past month's performance and see your trend over the course of the whatever time period you'd like to look at. And I think, like I said, they're going to be expanding with some reporting offerings as well as we go forward. Yeah, again, if you have any other questions as we get off this call, just let me know, and I'll be happy to discuss.
Thanks, Drew.
Thank you, Drew.
All right, thanks a lot. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Have a good one.